friends, my name is Dawn. Welcome to Chicken Run Creations. Today we are going to make this little dinosaur. I put him together for my grandson for Christmas. It's my first present that I have made. But I thought since I was making it, I would go ahead and share it with you so you could make one as well. So let's find out what we're going to need and get started. All right, we are going to attempt to make this little dinosaur. This will be a present for my grandson for Christmas. And I'm going to keep it very simple. No glass or wire or anything. He's only 2. I'm going to felt it pretty firm. They don't have any animals, so I'm not too concerned about any issues there. So this is an AI image that I came up with. I recently started a membership group on Facebook where every week I will give you 8 to 10 AI generated images based on a certain topic for the week. And if you are interested in joining that, I will drop more information down in the description for that. In the meantime, let's get started. I first must apologize if you hear a little bird in the background. That is my parakeet Sunny, and she always seems to start chattering the minute I start talking, so hopefully she won't be too loud. So let me show you what you're going to need to make this little guy. First, you obviously need your needles. I like to use a 36 and 38 triangle and a 40 spiral. Those are my go-to needles. I also like to use a clover pen tool with 2 40 spiral needles in it. Sometimes it just kind of helps speed up the work a little bit. A pair of scissors might come in handy. I don't really think we need anything else tool-wise. For the wool, I am not going with the same colors that are on the picture. I just kind of looked through my stash to see what I had, and I have this this aqua greenish kind of color that I think I'm going to use for the body. And then I have this bulky Corriedale Tornado from Cupid Falls Farms that I think I'm going to use for the feet. I'm still undecided on the feet, but I think that's where we're going to go. I couldn't find a darker green that I really like to work with this. So you'll need a little black and a little bit of white for the eyes, but that's pretty much all you're going to need. And then you're going to need some core wool to build up your body if you decide to go that route. I prefer to do it because it's a little bit cheaper. And other than that, I think that is all. So to get started, I like to start with the head a lot of times, but in this case, I don't know. Let's start with the body in this case here. So I'm just taking a strip. This is Cupid Falls Farms Corriedale Sliver that I like to use for my core. I just find it's pretty easy to work with. So I'm going to roll up a sausage shape here. And I'm just tightly rolling this up for the body, just to kind of get it started. And Sunny has decided she's going to be very vocal this morning. So I'm just going around this to get it tacked down. If you are new to needle felting and you're making something round, you want to keep turning your project. So you notice I kind of poke down and then turn, poke down and turn. Because if you just keep poking along here, you're going to get flat, and I don't want it flat. So we're just going to give it some overall pokes. Now, if you are new to using an image to come up with your projects, what I like to do is I like to print out my item in the size that I want to make it. I may end up actually making this a little bit smaller because I think he's a little big here, so I may change the size of this and get a smaller one. But I don't know, we'll see. I may not need to. Alright, I'm going to just poke in the ends here. So all I'm doing is just poking, instead of going up and down, I'm poking in this direction. You can turn it and go this way. I just find it's a little bit, I've been doing it this way for so long now, and it kind of helps because you know where your fingers are. If you're going like this, sometimes you can get your fingers up too high and poke your fingers. So I don't know why I'm using that needle. Sometimes I just grab a needle and don't look at what I got. And I don't want this to be flat, I want it to be rounded. So I'm taking my needle, and as I poke, I'm going up like this to round that end. So the wool's going to go in the direction that you poke. So you can see as I'm going up here, it's starting to round the end off a little bit. This is going to be his backside. I think I'm going to leave the front side fluffy so we can attach the neck to it. So this neck is going to go there. Now he's got a little bit of a hump on the back of his back here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of core, and I've decided this is going to be his back. So I'm just going to add a little bit here. Now we'll change this a little bit once we get the neck put on, but just to kind of start that hump. And then just to make that a little bit smoother, I'm going to take a little bit, just wrap around that, and that'll kind of bulk up his sides a little bit too. We'll probably add more to this once we start to build up the rest of his body. It's not recommended to give wool to young children. Toys like this, especially if they have like wire or you know, glass eyes or anything in them. So, and you want to felt it pretty firm. He doesn't put stuff in his mouth, so I think he'll be fine. Alright, So we had a little bit of a hump going there. We're going to build it up a little bit more though. I need to actually go back just a little bit. I want this to really be nice and rounded here. So I think I'm gonna bring this back a little bit more. I don't want to go too much past his back end here because I don't want it to get longer. Just a little bit to go over. Your top coat would actually kind of cover that up anyway, but it just helps me visually see how it's looking. All right, I like that better. Okay, now, I think, just looking at how the legs are, trying to decide if I want to cover this first. Just to make it easier, I find sometimes to cover your body as you go. It's a little bit easier sometimes. I'm going to start on the bottom. Just because the bottom is always hard to do once you get your legs attached. And the bottom probably won't change too much. The back one might add a little bit more too, but the bottom should pretty much stay the same. I'm gonna do the legs just in the core color. Sorry, not the core color. The top coat color, just because I find it's a little bit easier than doing the core and then wrapping it. Not too worried about the back side because the tail is going to come off of there. So to make the legs, now his legs are, you can see they're kind of on the side of the body. So we're going to make them a little bit longer than just like to attach them to the bottom. So I'm going to pull off 4 fairly equal size pieces here. Hope I have enough of this. Now we may change colors midstream. All right, this may be more than what we need. Let's see. I'm going to take one of them and kind of flattening it out here a little bit to make it a little bit longer. And I'm going to roll as tight as I can. Let's just see here. Of course, the ends are going to get tucked in a little bit. Let's get the right side here. So we're going to go here. It doesn't have to get really long, but I do want to bring the top of the leg up a little bit on the side of the body. So let's just poke this down a little bit and see where we are size-wise. Because I don't know if half the size would be. Actually, half that size might actually work. Let me, before I get too far with this, I'm going to pull this apart. Because I think I kind of want it to be a little bit bulkier. Okay, so I'm going to fold it up not quite halfway, and then this will be the bottom. Now I do want to get this top part mostly firm. We can leave a little bit fluffy for attaching. And then we'll cover the bottom part of this with our gray for the feet. I want these to get really nice and firm. I want the bottom of his feet to be slightly rounded. And I've switched to my 38 needle here. Let's see. I think that's going to work. All right, let's do the other 3 legs here. Always, if you're doing something where you need to be the same size, you always want to kind of do them at the same time. So they hopefully come out about the same size. So just gonna, this was a little bit thinner than I think the last piece was that I used. So I think if I keep it kind of tight, As you poke, you're going to notice that it's going to get a little bit longer. And I'm just kind of looking at this to see which end has a little bit more to it. So it's a little bit thinner up here from down here. So I'm going to make this the bottom. When you find your needle is harder going in, that's when you want to move to a smaller size needle. Pretty good. I'm not too concerned about the length up here. This one's a little bit fatter than this one. What we'll do is we'll compare them all when we get them done, and like maybe make the fatter ones the back legs. We'll see how they all are when we get them finished. Or we can just add a little bit more if we need to. It's not an exact measurement when you're pulling stuff out. Just going to compare sizes here. This one is a bit bigger than the other ones, but we started out with it a little bit bigger. So I think what I'm going to do here is just looking to see if one of these is these three, which of them are the closest to the same size. I think these two are. So I'm gonna pull these two apart to use as the front, and I'm just gonna add a little bit more to this one just to make it a little bit bigger. All right, I think that's better. Now I'm gonna take my gray and I'm just going to cover down along the bottom. So I'm going to take a small piece to start and just figure out how far down I want to go here. And once I kind of have how far down I want to go, I'm just going to add some little bits to fill in any gaps where the blue is showing through. I'm just gonna, this gray can have some little wiry bits. I'm just gonna give it a little trim here. Now let's just see how this is gonna work on our little dinosaur here. Its legs are pretty much quite back to the back side of it, so I just want to make sure that I'm putting it on. So I think that's going to work. I'm not going to attach it yet. Just want to make sure that that's going to work. I think it will. Alright, so I'm going to finish up the other legs the same way. Okay, now that we have the legs done, gotta keep these separate here so I know which is the back and which is the front. So what I'm gonna do here is figure out how much I want this to show, or how much I want it to, how far I want it to come down, because his legs are pretty close. There's not a lot of gap between his body and the legs. So you could do, if you really wanted to, is you could sew the legs on. If you're afraid of them pulling off, you could run some needle and thread across here. Just seeing if this is far back enough. It's kind of hard to tell on the picture, but I think it'll work. So I'm just gonna tighten this down a little bit more. And the other one, now this one's got a lot of extra at the top here, so I'm just gonna pull some of that off. I want to make sure that they're in the same spot and the same distance, so he stands up straight. I'm just gonna poke in this here a little bit and then give it a once over to make sure that it's all in the same spot. I think that's good. I poked it a little bit more here than I did on this side, but we can add to that. So okay, now before I attach the front legs, I think I want to make the neck and head. So I'm going to hold off on attaching these so I know where to place them. I think those are okay. All right, so let's go with the neck now. Normally I probably would do a wire for the neck, but since this is going to be for a child, I don't want to put a wire in there. And I don't want it to get too long. So I'm just kind of looking at my wool here and figuring out the best way to do this. I think I might roll it this way. Let's see what we get. Now this is going to be longer than what I need, but that's okay. Might actually get the head out of it too, we'll see. So this is rolling it this way, it's harder to get a really tight roll. So I'm gonna take a few minutes here and really get this going down. I'm gonna switch to my 2 needles here. Actually, and let me go to, I have another clover tool here that has 2 38s in it. We'll go to that one. So I'm going across it, but I'm also turning it so I can keep it rounded. I don't want it to be like a square shape, so I'm gonna make sure that I go all the way around. I'm gonna switch to my spiral ones now. I'm focusing here in the middle because I'm not sure how long I want it to be yet. I also have to keep in mind the balance of it, but having the long tail on there, that'll help compensate for the head and neck. I want this to be really firm and definitely a lot thinner than what it is now. It's coming along pretty good. Now, I want to see height-wise. Whoops, turn him over here. Height-wise. So his neck kind of comes out and then it kind of goes back a little bit. But I think that's actually a pretty good length. I'm going to pull some of this extra off down here. So we definitely don't need all of this. And I'm going to work his neck down a little bit more. Actually, it's bigger at the base and gets narrower as it goes up. But we can add, I'd rather make it really thin and then have to add more to it if need be. So I'm going to really work this in pretty good here. So there's a slight bend to it. And this part being built up will kind of add that shape to it. But then it kind of comes up and goes around like this. So to get that, if you kind of bend your wool a little bit and poke in that area and then poke over here, as long as you're making it firm enough, you can actually get it to hold. And I actually kind of want to over bend it a little bit because it's going to come forward naturally on its own. Just to get that bend in there a little bit. This might actually be a little bit too thick, especially since we still have to add our top coat to it. Let's just see here. I think that might work. All right, I'm going to firm this part up a little bit here. His legs are coming forward a little bit, but that's okay. We can fix that. This way. I'm gonna actually try and get this a little bit shorter. Get this attached. Make sure that his neck is straight here. Kind of bending it back more than what it needs to be at the moment Take that attached well. I think that's going to work. I'm just going to get a little bit of extra fiber here, and I'm going to tack it in along the back here. All right, so make sure that his neck is straight here. Okay, so his head will go here in the front. Okay, let's attach his front legs. And his front legs are just a little bit behind his little chest area here. And we're going to actually build that up just a little bit more. So I want to make sure that they're the same length down. They kind of come up like right where his neck is here. Okay, the other side on. Just get them somewhat attached enough that you can compare it to the other ones. I actually think that needs to come down just a little bit. I think this one actually needs to come down a little bit too. All right, he stands very good. Okay, we'll get these attached really well here. A little bit more here than I want. Let's see if I can get any of it out. It's not a really big deal. I think I can felt it down pretty firmly, so. All right, I think it looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to cover the rest of his body here. I got a few pieces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the wool right over the legs. So I'm going to use my 40 spiral. And you want to really spend some time on this to make sure that you get it nice and firm down. At the moment, I'm just attaching it. I'm not gonna go over it really well at this point. This leg is a little bit big, so I'm gonna poke it down just a little bit more. Still might find little pieces of grass and stuff in there. Let's pull it out. So I'm not going to go around the back side yet because we still need to get his tail. So I'm just kind of working on this section in between. A bigger piece than that. think I'm going to wait on covering the rest of his back here. Let's see if we can get started on his head here. I do want to see if I can get this a little bit smaller up in here. I want to keep the get a curve going here. Get these out of the way. I don't want it to come forward, so I want to keep it back a little bit. And we're going to come forward. So his head's going to go here. Let me just see if it's going to hold. I think it'll be okay. Let me just get this just a little bit smaller, because when we go to add the color, it's going to bulk it up just a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. All right, now let's see if we can do the head. Just trying to decide here if I want to do it on here or if I want to do it separate and then attach it. I think I'm going to do it separate and attach it. I think it'll just be easier. I just need to, let me see how we're comparing to this. Oh, we're pretty close. Not bad. It's kind of hard to tell because his body's kind of going back at an angle, but if I kind of keep the head that size, I think we'll be all right. So we're going to make like a cone shape, I think. Now the front of his nose is flat, but we're just going to start with a cone shape because we can flatten that out. Well, it didn't end up very coney shape, but we'll get it. Switch. I think I need to get a new 36 needle out. That one doesn't seem to be working quite right anymore. So the front of his face is rather blunt. So I'm doing that at the front. I don't want it to be too wide. The little fold here is kind of bugging me, but that's all right. All right, now we need to build his head up. And we're going to build on top of this. So his head kind of comes up and around like so. Don't want a whole lot more here in the front because I think thickness wise, once we add the top coat on, that's going to do the job. So we're gonna just try and build up from there. I'm going to fill this down a little bit first. So thinner here at the front and getting thicker as it goes back is what we're looking for. And again, we want this to get fairly firm. I think width-wise, I think we're good. Actually, if we attach it right on there, that'll give us a little bit more too. So I definitely don't want to add a whole lot more to the front here. So let's work on building up the back part of his head. I'm kind of like adding steps, I guess you would say. But I really want to get this firm. It's quite soft yet, so. Just going to slowly keep adding thin layers till I get the shape that I'm looking for. keep comparing it to my body here to make sure we're going in the right direction. We'll build up this part once we get it attached. I think that's looking pretty good. I think I might add one more layer of core, and then I might cover it. And see where we're at. I don't want to go too big with just the core. I don't like attaching the head until I have most of the details on the face because it's just harder to work with when it's attached. So if I can get his eyes in, that's going to be like the hardest part to do if it's already attached. Do his eyes and his nostrils, and then we can do the mouth once it's on. All right, I think that'll be good. So now I'm just going to cover the top part of his head. And some of it will go around the side, that's okay. But I just want to get the top covered so I can get his eyes on and decide if I need to bring it up a little bit more. Might need to do a little bit more on the top of the head, but I can do that with the color. So his nose is pretty flat here. So I'm going to try and keep that so there's the spot for his nostrils and his mouth. Not too bad. I'm gonna add just a little bit more on the sides here because I want that to be covered pretty well before I put the eyes on. Wasn't sure if we would like this color for Dino, but I'm liking it. I need to figure out where I got it from and get some more. I was trying to decide if I want to bring out the sides of his head just a little bit more. It's gonna add a little cheek area. Because right now it's too straight back. So I'm just gonna add like a little cheek here. And I'll go over it with another layer. And I'll just do a covering over that. Needs a little more in the front, but that's okay. We'll get to that in a minute here. Alright, let's get his eyes on. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to do the black first, and then we'll put the white around it. So we want a couple small balls. You want them to be about the same size. This black is, well, it's got a little bit of brown in it. We want nice big happy eyes, not mean dragon eyes. Alright, so this might be, it might work. So what I'm doing is just kind of rolling them in my finger and thumb here to make a ball, and you can feel as you're rolling if they're about the same size, and then put them down and look and see if they look about the same size. They might be a little big, but we'll see if we can get them small. So I'm going to kind of figure out where I want to place them. And I'm just going to attach a little bit and then do the same on the other side, making sure that we get same placement. I think that's good. Alright, so I'm just tacking it down. So now what I'm going to do is, now the eyes on this are flat. They're not rounded. So I'm going to go around and tuck in around the outside first to get the size I want. And then I'll tack, poke in the center to kind of flatten it out. I don't care if they, I mean, it's actually, it's okay if they stick out a little bit. I'm okay with that, but I'm going to make sure that they're in there really good so little fingers can't pull them out in this case. So I kind of want them to be pretty flat. You can just kind of manipulate it a little bit with your needle if you're not really round. And then when I poke in the center, I'm doing it really gently because I don't want it to move out of its shape. Just gonna poke around here a little bit more. To the other side, I'm just kind of comparing here. Can attach around the base of it first. I want to compare. I think we're pretty close. I'm just going to very lightly flatten that out. Kind of go around a little bit more. Okay, now this one's a little bit bigger. Now we're going to take our white and I'm going to pull off just a little bit here. We're going to go around the eye with it. I'm just drafting it out a little bit so it's kind of even thickness all the way around. And then it's a pretty wide circle around the eye in the picture. You can go as wide or as narrow as you want. And I'm just very carefully packing this in around the eye. I'm going to go drag it around. At the moment, I'm just attaching it. I'm not worried about making sure it's totally felted at this stage. It's a little thick here. Let's see if I can just pull some of it out a little bit. And then I'm going to trim it just beyond where it's going to meet. I'm just dragging the fibers up. Now it's kind of more oval than I want, so I'm going to push out over here. Have a little bit too much here, so I'm going to just trim that off. Just take your time here, go really slow. Make sure you get the shape that you want. And by pulling out those fibers a little bit, I can get it more rounded. I'm using my 40 spiral for all this. And then once you're happy with the shape, just go all the way around it. And I'm kind of poking the black too to bring it out over the white somewhat. Make it all nice and flat. Now if you find some areas that are a little thin, you could bring in a little bit more white. I think that looks good. I'm going to kind of tack down the top here just a little bit. All right, see if we can get the same thing on the other side. I don't think I have enough that I pulled out there. So to draft, you just very loosely hold with the one hand, and with your other hand, pull, come up to where it's starting to come out, and pull it real gently till you have enough. And then just pull it off. I think that's probably enough. I'll do the same thing on this side. I always find one side easier to work with than the other side. And usually it's this side that's easier for me to work with. I almost always tend to start with the, I don't know what side you would call it, depends on which way you're looking at it, but I guess if you're looking at it from the top down with a, like this, it'd be the right side. So I always find it easier to work on this side compared to the other side. All right, so let's give this a trim. It's probably more than we need. I'm just going to trim that a little bit more. Again, just drag it, gently poke, get the shape you want. All right, I think we got the eyes then. I need to put this down just a little bit more. All right, I think he's looking pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to just poke behind where I want his nostrils to be here a little bit. So I want this to kind of come up a little bit, if you can see that. Firm this up a little bit more up here. I'm going to add just a little bit here on the front to cover that white up. We'll have to add some more once we attach it to the head, but just want to kind of get an idea of where to place his nostrils and where his mouth is going to go. We won't put his mouth in until we attach it to the body. Okay, so I want this to be flat. So I'm gonna poke it this way. just a lot of shaping. Alright, so then I'm going to take a bigger needle, and all I'm going to do is just poke in where I want this nostril to be. So I'm going to go one side and the other side. You could put a little bit of black in here if you wanted to. Alright, this side looks a little wonky here. Now, if you wanted to put a little bit of black in there, you could do that. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm just going to leave it as is. This one's still kind of bugging me a little bit, but he's two. All right. So now, let's see what we got here. All right, I'm going to firm this up a little bit here. I don't want it to be too big. Put a little bit of this off here in the front. If you're pulling this, you want to hold this really tight so you don't pull it all the way out. You're just pulling off the end. I think that's looking good. All right, so now I'm going to try and figure out how far I want it to. I think that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm tucking this extra in around the under part of his jaw here. Because I don't want it to, I want it to be centered. We're going to attach it. It should flatten down to pretty much not much extra bulk underneath here. Let's see how we're looking. Oh, not bad. Okay. So I'm just going to go along the edges here. Get that attached. Of course, we'll add more green. Sometimes I surprise myself. Okay, then the back here, we'll just bring this down. I don't want to lose, I want to make sure I keep the shape. So I don't want to bend this too much. So I'm just going to be very careful to bring this around and attach it. We can build it up if we need to, but we're just gonna get it attached. Now it's a little going off the side a little bit here. This is why it's hard to do the head, because it's hard to find a way to hold it. Which is why I like to have most of the head done before I attach. Some people do it right when they're on it, but I just find that harder to hold. Cute. Cute, cute, cute. All right, I am liking that a lot. You know, we always go through, if you're new to needle felting, there's almost always a stage where you're second guessing yourself. And you'll look at it and you're like, oh, this is never going to come out. It doesn't look right. But if you just keep working it, you know, add, take away if you need to, it almost always, it may not look exactly like your inspiration, but it will look cute. There, I'm really liking that. I'm going to, when I attach the color, I'm going to kind of push this back a little bit more, but I'm thinking this is looking really good. Let me see if he stands. Oh, he does. Very good. Okay, because we still have to add his tail. So let's, I'm really, really wondering if I have enough here. I think I should have enough. Kind of concerned. We're going to go real gentle, I think. So let's add, gonna get this a little bit smaller here. Start underneath his head here. I have to put a little bit more, it's a little too thin. Let's go down the side here. I'm not going to worry about totally felting it in yet. be careful going around the neck here because you don't want to lose your shape. I actually find working in areas like this, sometimes it works better to use the clover tool. Helps you reach in there better. I'm not worried about all the fluffy bits yet. We'll get it all tacked down here. Now, I'm just looking here to see if I want to add, I think I want to add a little bit more to his chest here to bring it out a little bit. So I'm going to do that with some core. I'm just going to add it down in this area. I think I might do a little bit more, like right here at the base area. And now he's top heavy, but that's because the head was coming forward a little bit. So once we get the tail on, I think we'll be good. And as I work this down a little bit more, so I need to kind of bring this back a little bit. Okay. Alright, I'll finish firming that up. First though, I want to make the tail. So I make sure I have enough wool to cover that. So let's think the best way to make the tail here. Let's grab a skewer and let me see if I got a longer piece of core here. I don't want it too long, but I do kind of want it to come to a point. So what I'm going to do is I just have a skewer here. I'm going to start up towards the top, and then I'm going to roll down. You want to keep your wool flat and bring it overlapping the next row, so you can see I'm kind of covering the row that's ahead of me. And let's see, how long do we want to go here? Maybe just a little bit longer than that. And then I'm going to go back up, but I'm not going to go all the way up because I want it to, you know, gradually get wider the closer we get to the body. So then down here, I'm going to just wrap it a few extra times down towards the base, and we can add more to this if we need to. And I just kind of like to roll it in my hands a little bit, make sure I roll it the right way. So I think I need to add a little bit more up here, so let me pull a little bit more off. Just going to start this here and go up a little bit more. Alright, before I pull it off, I'm gonna go down the side. You don't want to poke into the skewer, you want to go down the side of it. So I'm just gonna go down and turn it and go down just to help it hold when we take it off. And let me turn this around here. I like to kind of poke in here a little bit, because that'll help hold it together when you take it off the stick. All right, let's pull it off. Do some, because we wrapped it on the skewer, it's pretty firm already. I'm just gonna go over it a little bit more here. I'm gonna check my size and see how it is. I'm not gonna do anything fancy with it. The picture has it curved up a little bit, which I think it might kind of do on its own. We'll see. We can always add a little curve to it. I think I'm going to be a little bit too long, but we'll see. second here. I'm going to roll it in my hands. Okay, so I'm going to let me see if I can poke this in some here. I do want to get a little bit wider here at the base, I think. It's kind of hard to see in the picture. Just trying to figure out the best way to attach this. Alright, so I'm going to flatten this end here just a little bit. Because I want I want the back side to flow down. So I'm going to add a little bit more, I think, on the top. And I think that kind of makes his butt stick out a little bit. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to cut into the back side of him here. And see if I can make this work. Shh, don't tell the YouTube police here. I'm just kind of opening this up a little bit here. So this will kind of fit down in there a little bit better. All right, I'm gonna trim this a bit here. All right, let's flatten this. I think that's going to work. So I'm going to do first, so I'm going to cover it. Wrap the top here. I'm gonna want to get this really nice and firm before I attach it, just so I don't have to mess with it once I get it on there. we'll go with the wrapping. Depending on what kind of wool you're using, sometimes I don't like wrapping, but this wool, just because you get the lines, but even though this wool has kind of a color variegation in it, it blends in pretty well, so it's, you don't necessarily see the lines going around. Otherwise I would lay the wool like this, which I'll probably do up here more so. Yeah, or not. I'm going to switch to my 40 spiral and just go over it. Get it nice and firm. I'm not going to worry about the very top here because we'll do that when we attach it. When you're poking down here at the very bottom where it's really thin, try not to go all the way through the tail, because then that'll stick it to your mat and give you little fuzzies. Got a small piece of white showing here. So you can see I just kind of go back and forth all the way up. That helps to get rid of those little air bubbles of wool. Get it nice and secure. Get that air out. And it gives you a smooth finish too. So I'm kind of going in at an angle instead of straight up and down. And I'll do this over the whole thing. I won't bore you with watching the whole thing when I go over it, but this is basically what I'll do is just go right on up at a slight angle, and that helps to get everything nice and smooth. We'll give it a roll. And then if you want it to bend up, you can just, if it's firm enough, you can actually just bend it and it will hold for you. I'm just not sure which side here we're going to go with. All right. Let's see if we can get his tail on here. I think that's going to work. I think I want to, I'm actually going to cut this a little bit here. So I'm going to not have quite so much, so I'm just going to cut some of this out. The nice thing about wool is sometimes you can cut away pieces that you don't need, add more, just to make this so it's not quite so bulky on the back side here. I'm going to do a little bit more, I think. That'll work better. Oh yeah, much better. Okay, so I figured out the best way to hold him here so you guys can see and I can see. Oh, much better. I like that. All right, so I'm going to go around the base. Get it attached. Now, let's see here. Let me get my brush here. See if this will help hold it together while we're working. All right. Maybe. So I'm gonna see if I can get this here. No, that's not really much help. So I'm stabbing from the tail into the body. All the way around. And then we can go in a little bit more here. This tail might be a little long, but I think it'll work. And then we'll use some wool on top of it to help secure it more. You can also go from the body into the tail. It's a little harder though to do that. All right. Okay, let's finish attaching our top coat here. So I'm going to start down here and I'm going to run, let's do a little bit less than that. I'm going to run this from the tail to the body. again, I'm just attaching it. I'm not firming it all up yet. I'll go over and do all that once I get it all attached. I'm going to add a little bit more around there just because, see how it's a little bit thicker here and then it gets a little bit narrow. But I'll do that when I start to go around and firm everything up here. I'm going to take this right over the leg. He's falling forward because his front legs are a little wonky at the moment. Okay, I think we have them all covered with the exception of a few little spots here and there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my 40 spiral needle and I am going to go all over him and get this top coat really nice and firm on here. Fill in any holes that I might need. I'm just going to go over the whole thing, but I won't bore you with that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to turn the camera off, do that, and then I will come back and we will add his mouth. I'll show you how to add his mouth. I don't think there's any other real major things to do here, so I think we'll do that. Oh, I I might actually add a little bit more on his back. We'll see once I get it firmed down if I want to make it curved a little bit more. See how it flows into the tail and stuff. So once I get it firmed up all the way, we'll see how that looks, and if need be, I'll show you how to do that. But I'm just going to take a few minutes and get it all firmed up, and then I'll come back and we'll finish them up. Alrighty, we got them all firmed up, nice and solid. I did add a little bit of wool across his back here to kind of give it a nice little curve here. So all we have left to do is to add his mouth. So let me get a, well, that's not black. Let's get some black here. Find some. And just gonna get a little, pull a little bit out here. And I'm gonna kind of roll it in my fingers here. Sorry, my phone has decided to go off. Let me close that for a minute. All right. So pretty thin. Now it's gonna go, figure out the best way to hold this here. So it's gonna go across like this. I'm gonna make sure that I get it straight, kind of straight. I'm gonna start it here in the center to hold it. Just kind of hold it in place here. We're gonna walk it around the sides, and I do want it to be a little bit of a smile. So I'm just gonna curve it up here just a little bit. We'll tuck it in as we work it. All right, so make sure. Okay, I need to go. I feel like his mouth is a little bit, his jaw here is a little thin here, so before I do that, I want to add just a little bit of wool just right in here. Let's try this again. Okay, I'm going to cut off a little bit more than what I need. On both sides. I'm just kind of looking at it here to make sure that it's where I want it to go. We're gonna poke it in. Here's a bigger needle here, because I want it to be fairly thin. just going to curve it up a little bit. Can take that extra. Probably should bring it back a little bit further. I think that'll work. Just tuck in the extra here. And I'm just going to go over this. Tuck it in there. His mouth probably could go back a little bit further. In the picture it looks like it's back further, but I think it'll work. Now I think what I might do is add to his lower jaw here just a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of this wool here. Actually, I probably only need about half of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just flatten this out a little bit. My mat here is pretty hard, so the needle isn't going through. I want to fold this in half. I'm just going to build that bottom jaw up just a little bit. It's kind of thin. So I'm going to tuck in the sides here just to round it off a little bit, like so. Pull it up gently. Just going to go over this a little bit. This will be the bottom. Where I folded it over will be the top. Or underneath the jaw here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this right along that line that we just made. Ideally, you'd probably do this before you put the mouth on, but I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't need to, but after adding the mouth, it looked a little thin, so back, and I'll put a piece over this just to make it all blend in, but we'll get this attached here first. I'm going to poke it down so it's not quite so fat. Take a look at it here. Yeah, that's better. Poke it down a little bit more. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I'm just going to go along the edge here. Make sure it's nice and firm and neat. The nice thing about this wool is it blends in pretty good. There's a little bit here to cover, but a lot of it blends in fairly nicely, so I'll just do a little covering here and probably on the other side. This side you actually can't even really see it, so that's okay. So just a little bit of finishing to do on it, but I think our little dinosaur guy is done. I might actually add a little bit more on the back of his head here to kind of round it out a little bit. So just make a little pillow here. And add it to the back of his head. Just gonna build it up a little bit. That's better. Might add a little bit more, but I think that's better. Okay, so you can bend his head down a little bit. You can pose him a little bit, and he'll hold. But let me see. I think we got him done. So I will take a picture of him so you can see him a little bit better. But I think we finished our little dinosaur for my grandson. I'm not too upset with the color. I think it worked out pretty good, and I think you'll like it. So one Christmas present down. I don't know how many more to go, depends on how much time I have. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you would hit the subscribe button and the like button down below to let me know you like these little videos. Trying to do a little bit more on YouTube. It kind of got away from me. I do weekly videos over on my YouTube or my Facebook channel, which you're always welcome to pop in over there and see. And I do have a membership, 2 membership groups actually. I have a Creators Hub group that I do weekly videos in there with some more advanced training. We also have monthly teachers come in and do a class when I can get them. You can ask questions. You can make suggestions on what you'd like to see made, and you also get a free membership into my other membership of where I post pictures weekly of the AI images that I mentioned to you earlier. So both of those will be linked below. You're always welcome to get in touch with me if you have any questions. And Facebook is the best place to do that with Chicken Run Creations. But yeah, so thanks for joining me. Hopefully I will get another video up here soon in a week or two. I do want to finish my nativity that I started last year, but I got to get Christmas presents done first. So hopefully I can do that, and then I can get a couple new nativity videos up. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day, and happy felting.